This organization, this organization is one that exists out of necessity, but our community is one that exists out of compassion because a mom, a volunteer, a person just like each and every one of you decided at her kitchen table that she would be the change she wanted to see in the world. If you've met this woman, then there's no way you can't help but love her. The hours of conversation, the incredibly long text threads, the genuine friendship and support this woman gives is why she's not only Glamour's Woman of the Year, but she's ours. Give it up to the woman who started it all a decade ago, my friend, Shannon Watts!
Thank you so much. Hello, GSU. I am so glad to finally be back in person with you after 4 long years of meeting in Zoom, and it is wonderful to see your beautiful faces in real life. Thank you. Thank you. You know, this GSU is particularly poignant for me, given that it is my last as a Moms Demand Action leader. Typically, I use this time to celebrate all of your amazing victories, and there are plenty. But this year, I'm going to pass that honor to Angela Ferrell-Zabala, Moms Demand Action's new executive director. Instead, I will use my time today to honor some of our most significant accomplishments over the past decade and to reflect on lessons learned along the way. First, a caveat. I started Moms Demand Action because there was no national woman-led volunteer organization working on this issue at the time. It was before Students Demand Action was founded and before so many of you joined our ranks. So my remarks today will be focused mainly on women, but please know how thankful we all are for the support of every single person in the audience who is an ally and an advocate. So back to 2012, when Moms Demand Action was founded, there was no roadmap for how an army of angry women could take down the most powerful and wealthy special interest that ever existed. The only way to forge that path was to walk it every day, together. And along the way, we became each other's teachers, co-conspirators, friends. We celebrated every victory, big and small. And after every setback, we dug in deep and we found the strength to keep going. In the process, we rewrote history, and we have saved countless lives. Through the years, we didn't just choose to get off the sidelines. We dared to tell our stories. We stood up for each other and ourselves. We encouraged each other to take on roles we never imagined we were qualified for. And that brings me to one of the most important lessons I've learned in the last decade. We are all leaders. You already know I was a stay-at-home mom of 5 when I posted my plea for change on Facebook after the shooting at Sandy Hook School. What you might not know is that as a 41-year-old woman in Indiana, shout out for Indiana, not many people looked at me and saw a leader. In fact, in the early days of Moms Demand Action, I was routinely told I wasn't qualified, what I was doing was duplicative, and it simply couldn't be done. I didn't listen to the naysayers. I listened to my gut. And I know that sentiment resonates with many of you because women, especially women of color, especially older women, are often told they have nothing valuable to offer. But our wealth of experiences and expertise are actually the answer to some of the most pressing problems in the world. We have been sold the myth that leadership is inherent, that you're born with it or you're not. But everyone can be a leader. And as women, we are already filling that role in so many ways in our lives, from our families to our workplaces to our communities. And even in the earliest days of our organization, it was really clear that volunteers were learning more than just how to take on the gun lobby. They were learning how to take power and to insist on a seat at the table. Moms Demand Action created a whole new way of finding, training, uplifting women leaders from all walks of life. Yes, we advocate for gun safety, but also for ourselves. And I am so proud to say that many of you have taken what you've learned and used it to get a new job or a promotion, to start your own organizations and foundations, to run for office, or simply to inspire others to join the fight. And inspiration is such an important part of this work. I could never have started Moms Demand Action without the guidance of other women. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I was taught that, shout out to Rochester. I was taught that the activists who lived in my town were heroes, women like Harriet Tubman, Clara Barton, Hester Jeffrey. And then, when I started Moms Demand Action, so many women across the country, all of whom were total strangers, rallied around me. They taught me about gun violence and organizing and how to navigate the legislative landscape. And that brings me to another important lesson. Surround yourself with women role models and supporters who will encourage you to challenge the status quo. I have been so blessed to be mentored by amazing women like Congresswoman Lucy McBath, along with other colleagues and friends who serve as an informal circle of advocates and supporters. We all need good people around us to be able to do this work every day. And I have heard that many of you believe that Moms Demand Action in your chapter has become like a second family to you. From starting meal trains to holding someone's hand in courthouses to taking care of each other's kids, you rallied around each other and created communities that will be part of your lives forever. And that is important when you are in a long-haul fight like this one, because another important lesson is that there is power in showing up as a group over and over again. In the past 10 years, you have jammed the hallways of Congress with strollers, testified late into the night, and packed state houses so often and for so long that our red shirts are now ubiquitous across the country. Your constant presence at school board meetings, at bill hearings in Washington, D.C. has made it clear to lawmakers that moms are everywhere. We are always watching you. Gone are the days when gun lobbyists could push through dangerous bills with absolutely no repercussions. Showing up is how the work happens, even though our culture often views activism as something that burns bright and hot and quick. Too many people believe that one post, one protest, one policy can somehow solve complex problems. The reality is it takes years of small changes to lay the groundwork for big ones. And that brings me to another lesson. Incremental changes lead to revolutions. I often look to the women's suffrage movement when I need a reminder of the power of relentless incrementalism. It took 100 years of tireless advocacy to win the right for all women, not just white women, to vote. And on days when this is hard, I remind myself that if those activists had given up 10 years in, we would not be here today. You have heard me say that women uniquely understand the strategic importance of doing what I have called the unglamorous heavy lifting of grassroots advocacy. All those late nights, Early mornings, freezing advocacy days, scorching hot rallies. You show up and you chip away at the gun industry's power. Whether it's getting your school board to pass secure storage resolutions or beating back permitless carry, the incremental work matters and it all adds up. It's how we have passed over 500 gun safety laws in red, blue, and purple states. It's how we defeated the gun lobby's agenda in state houses 90% of the time for 9 years in a row. It's how we sent home secure storage information with millions of school students. And it's how we unlocked $2 billion in life-saving funding for violence intervention programs. Those wins, of course, don't tell the full story, because we don't always win the first time, or even the second time. We're stymied, and then we change course. When reckless policies are pushed through, we give lawmakers hell for voting yes, and we find another way to fight. It is all part of our strategy. When lawmakers close a door, we go in through a window. Call it a fierceness gap, but for all their bluster, gun extremists don't have the energy to play the long game. They show up, they yell loudly for a while, and then they head home, while the women with signs and strollers stick around. That is Big Mom energy, and we have cornered the market on it. We have shown that we will be around long after the other side puts down their guns and goes home. Which brings me to another lesson, courtesy of Babe Ruth. You just can't beat the person who won't give up. Women are the secret sauce of activism because even when we're faced with a powerful adversary, we don't back down, we double down. Persistence is our superpower. We have pulled every lever available to us and changed the culture, candidates, and course of history on this issue. We've normalized talking about gun safety on the campaign trail and in classrooms and in our communities. We call out lawmakers when they offer only thoughts and prayers and try to blame gun violence on anything but guns. But, as we all know, it is in fact the fucking guns. We turned the NRA's A rating into a scarlet letter and exposed them for the toxic, corrupt mess that they are. We created a gun sense candidate distinction, which now thousands of politicians vie for. And we are running our own volunteers against gun lobby-backed lawmakers, flipping seats and securing gun sense majorities. It has led to a sea change in American politics. In 2012, when I started doing this work, a quarter of all Democrats in Congress had an A rating from the NRA. Today, not a single one does. In fact, in the spring of 2013, bipartisan gun safety legislation failed by a handful of votes in the Senate, but then in 2022, we got 15 Republican senators to vote yes. You did that. But this work isn't done. Lawmakers on the very far right are pushing policies that endanger our families and our communities. We're seeing gun extremism increasingly linked with dangerous anti-LGBTQ+ and anti-women legislation. This rising danger brings me to my last lesson, courtesy of Alice Walker. Activism is our rent for living on the planet. So many people don't like where the world is going, but they don't know what to do other than binge watch Ted Lasso. But everyone in here knows what to do. And thanks to our work together, you know how to do it. You all have a role to play, all of you, from the retired grandmother making GSAN calls, to the Students Demand Action volunteer registering people to vote on campus, to the survivor telling their story to lawmakers, to the young mom who decides to run for a seat on their school board. At the end of the day, we have a moral obligation to act, given the state of the world. And as women, acting is actually a matter of self-preservation. As the saying goes, if you don't have a seat at the table, you are probably on the menu. And given that women hold less than a third of the 500,000 elected positions in this country, women's safety, women's rights, and women's freedoms are on the menu. Having more women wield their power for change benefits everyone by creating a world that is more equitable, collaborative, and compassionate. Moms Demand Action has always been proudly women-led. And as women leaders, we have a responsibility to lift as we climb. When we walk through a door, we offer our hand to the next woman coming through, and we mentor and support her. And that brings me to my own journey. At the end of every year for a decade, I've asked myself whether it is time for me to step back so that others can step forward. When I got off the sidelines in 2012, my goal was to help pass federal gun safety legislation. Thanks to all of you and your tireless work, we did that last summer through the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And for me, standing in the Rose Garden and looking around, it was the logical bookend to my leadership. And I knew it was time to hand the torch over to the woman who could help write the next chapter of our organization. It is an honor to call Angela my friend and my colleague. I know she is absolutely the right woman for this job. She is a lifelong organizer and a fierce protector who goes hard for her people. She's tenacious, strategic, passionate. She's guided by her heart and her faith and her family. And I know that she will never give up because she believes so strongly in what we're fighting for, an America free of gun violence. I know now, 10 years later, that the way the movement talks about and tackles this work has to continue to evolve if it is to last into perpetuity. I also know, thanks to all of you, that the flame I ignited amid my own outrage and heartbreak 10 years ago will burn because of you in the years to come. And I know I will be cheering you all on as a local and vocal California Moms Demand Action volunteer as we continue to force change in the years to come. It has truly been the honor of a lifetime to lead this organization. Because of your trust and your kindness and your support and your generosity, my life has been forever changed for the better. And because of your tireless efforts and your refusal to give up in the face of fear and hopelessness, so many others' lives have been changed for the better too. So I'm going to close with my Irish ancestors' goodbye blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your backs. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of her hand. In other words, keep going. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It is now my great honor to introduce the executive director and the new leader of Moms Demand Action, Angela Ferrell-Zabala.
Something's got a hold on me, yeah. Oh, it must be love. Oh, something's got a hold on me right now, child. Oh, it must be love. Let me tell you now, I've never felt like this before. Something's got a hold on me that won't let go. Believe I'd die if I only could. I feel so strange, but it sure is good. I said, oh, 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 oh,
Yes. Woo, woo, woo. Oh my God, that fire. Thank you, Shannon, my sister from another mister. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chicago. I said, good afternoon, Chicago. It's so good to be with you here in community. Shannon, I want to start by expressing my gratitude for all that you have done to shape this movement into what it is today. Because of your vision, your fearlessness, your tenacity, thousands of us are gathered here, and tens of thousands more wear our red shirts. We're the largest grassroots movement in the country, yes, but we also are a community that lifts each other up and supports each other. I'm so inspired by the joy you find in helping other women claim their power. Your decision to raise your voice 10 years ago, even though you didn't know where this would take you, has inspired so many to do the same. Over the past decade, you've met hopelessness with pragmatism, cynicism with courage, and vitriol with humor. You've come to embody what it means to get off the sidelines and fight like a mother. Your decision to follow your intuition and step back from a movement that you've helped to spark so others could step up is a testament to your leadership and integrity. From the very beginning, you've centered volunteers in this movement and instilled in all of us that this work is and always will be bigger than one person. We're so excited to make you proud as we enter the next decade of this work stronger than ever. So thank you. Thank you for the trust in me and in all of us to carry this work forward. It's an honor of a lifetime to take this torch and run with it. Thank you, Shannon. It's a joy to be together in person, and Chicago feels like the perfect place to start the next decade of this work. We're coming together as a community to take action and create change, and I'm so thrilled to be working shoulder to shoulder with all of you. An important part of our movement building work has been to center the voices of people that are most impacted by this crisis. We're proud to have hundreds of survivors here with us. And this is our most racially diverse GSU ever. Come on now. We are so grateful for your leadership in this fight because we know that when it comes to the solutions to this crisis, representation matters. There should be nothing about us without us. And we're thrilled to have so many LGBTQ+ leaders here, gun owners, military veterans, and community partners with us here as well. So I joined this movement because I believe that when people work together, we have the power to make the world better. It's a lesson I learned from my very own mother, who lives by the motto that we're not okay unless everyone is okay. My mother inspired me to live my faith through service to others, and she showed me that no matter how seemingly small an offering, the impact could be immeasurable. She's also my shero and the one that I turn to for counsel. So when I had to make this decision of stepping into this role, I'll be honest with you, I was nervous at first. My youngest daughters are little, they're 5 and 7, forever my babies. And my 2 oldest are turning 22 this month, 22. and just beginning to navigate this world on their own. And being out front in this fight is, instead of the trenches, is so new to me. It's a new experience. And I come from a people who made a way out of no way. We didn't wait for Superman. And that's true of every single one of you here. You don't wait for someone else to fix this crisis. You put on your capes and you get it done. I'm a person of faith, so I also talk to God and called towards my elders for wisdom. I talked it over with my wife and my children, and then I called my mama, and her words were loud and clear. Angie, you were born a leader, so lead. And as we all know, there is no arguing with a mom. I'm deeply humbled to be in this room as the first executive director of Moms Demand Action. To do this work with you, to serve as your champion and help to share your work with the world is such an honor. I've been an organizer my whole life, but I joined this movement because, like so many of you, being a mom completely changed my perspective on the world. From the moment I held each of my 4 children in my arms, I felt the urgent need to do everything in my power to keep them safe. Being a mother also deepened my commitment to building that better, safer world for them, for all of our children. I needed to roll up my sleeves and do this work myself. And I found this amazing community to do it with. And we're now 10 years into a fight of a lifetime, and together we're rewriting history. And on that note, I want to share some of the history that you've made this year. So let's do a little roll call, y'all. As an organizer and a person of faith, I love a good call and response, so just bear with me here. It's going to be something. It's impossible to fit all of your awesomeness into just one speech, but please join me for this shout out, to shout all the work that you've done this year. And when you hear your state, just give a little wave. And everyone else, when I say can't stop, I want you to say, what? Come on now. You already know. So let's try that like our friend showed us. Let's try that right now together. Can't stop. Can't stop. You got this. Ready? All right, here we go. Alabama for forging deeper connections with community partners. Alaska for working together to pass major Be Smart resolutions. Arizona for vetoing 7 gun lobby priority bills. Arkansas for bringing Be Smart to school districts statewide. California for taking an average of 66 actions per day this year. Colorado for passing 5 more gun safety bills. Connecticut for making the governor's bill the law of the land. Can't stop. DC for lighting the White House orange. Delaware for keeping guns out of sensitive places. Florida for helping to break the cycle of violence. Georgia for blocking all of the gun lobby's priorities this year. Hawaii for helping hold the gun industry accountable in court. Idaho for stopping 6 dangerous bills. Illinois for centering CVI funding in your historic legislation. Can't stop. Indiana for building bipartisan political power that no one can deny. Iowa for your amazing Be Smart work statewide. Kansas for turning advocates into lawmakers and defeating the NRA 3 times. Kentucky for bringing more than 100 moms to Frankfurt. Louisiana for blocking permitless for the 6th year in a row. Maine for barring sales to prohibited purchasers. Can't stop. Maryland for completing a gun sense trifecta with your first Black governor. Massachusetts for putting gun safety on the front page of the Boston Globe. Michigan for passing 3 landmark bills in 3 months. Minnesota for ushering in a gun sense trifecta with our own volunteers. Mississippi for fighting for CVI funding. Missouri for turning lawmakers into gun sense champions. Montana for handing out hundreds of gun locks statewide. Can't stop. Nebraska for re-engaging more than 60% of your volunteers. Nevada for holding politicians accountable when they failed to disarm hate. New Hampshire for refusing to let the gun industry score points. New Jersey for securing $10 million in CVI funding. New Mexico for passing the Bernie Hargrave Gun Safety Act. New York for leading the way in putting survivors and victims first. North Carolina for creating the SAFE Initiative. Can't stop. North Dakota for turning Fargo orange with a community cleanup. Ohio for building partnerships that center credible voices. Oklahoma for forging 2 huge B-Smarts partnerships with police. Oregon for electing 9 moms and getting the governor to put on her red shirt. Pennsylvania for securing a gun sense majority in the House. Rhode Island for electing 7 of our own this cycle alone. Can't stop. South Carolina for elevating and supporting survivors who are leading this work. South Dakota for blocking every gun lobby black bill. Tennessee for refusing to take no for an answer in Nashville. Texas for building a diverse coalition that proves everything is bigger in Texas. Utah for making strides on secure storage. Vermont for expanding your extreme risk law. Can't stop. Virginia for building a sustainable chapter with 63 new leaders. Washington for banning assault weapons. West Virginia for getting Joe Manchin to do the right thing on arm braces. Wisconsin for putting a gun sense champion on the Supreme Court. Wyoming for focusing on the missing and murdered Indigenous women crisis. Can't stop. The Gun Sense Action Network for making more than 1 million calls and texts this year to fuel our Mother's Day of Action, protect the arm brace rule, and welcome new folks in. The Survivor Network for being the heart and the soul of this movement and leading with empathy. The National Volunteer Team for training and coaching more than 600 leaders this year. The Veterans Advisory Council for serving as a powerful messenger and bringing together veterans in 23 states and the District of Columbia. And folks, last but absolutely not least, students demand action leaders for confronting the gun industry head on, leading the way on divestment and organizing more than 350 school walkouts this year. Can't stop. Can't stop. Woo! Y'all, come on. A lot of good work. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Every hour you gave, every call you made, every day you showed up to do this work, you made a difference. Because through it all, you gave people a reason to feel hope. When thousands of people came to us saying they were fed up and heartbroken this year, you welcomed them with open arms and showed them that they belong here. When pundits and politicians said nothing could be done, you showed Americans there is another path, the one you created just by walking it. And when the gun industry tried to gut our gun laws to line their pockets, you said loudly and clearly, not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You truly made 2023 an incredible year for our movement, and together we'll keep that fire that Shannon sparked in all of us burning into the next decade. We'll keep evolving in the way that we talk about gun violence so no one feels the stigma of silence. We'll keep centering the voices of survivors and Black Americans so that people who live this reality every day always have a seat at the table. We'll keep forging strong bonds with community partners who put their lives at risk doing this work on the ground so that they have the funding and support that they need year after year. We'll keep running our own people for office because we know that the people in this room can write better laws than the NRA. And we'll keep deepening the ties between moms demand action and students demand action because students aren't the leaders of tomorrow. They're the leaders of today. What this country needs is transformational, intergenerational change, and we're here together to make it happen. When we unite around the shared goal of saving lives, we've proven we can do incredible things because together we are unstoppable. I have no doubt that the future will be brighter because of the people in this room. I'm proud to be in this fight alongside you and so excited to see what we accomplish together. We're 10 years into this and we're not going anywhere because we can't stop. That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Yeah. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too. I break chains up on myself. Won't let my freedom rot in hell. Hey, I'ma keep on running 'cause the winner don't quit on themselves.
Thank you, Angela. You are truly an inspiration, and we look forward to following you to a common gun sense America. One more time, everybody. Can't stop. Won't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. As we mentioned earlier, me and Sandra are both grew up in communities where speaking up wasn't encouraged.
There is no challenge like being voiceless, to feel we have no control or agency over how we live, how we grow, and how we thrive. This can be even more traumatizing when gun violence has caused indescribable pain, grief, and fear, like it has for us. But are we voiceless? No. Now, we speak with friends and neighbors. We present at local school board meetings. We testify at state houses. We call on our federal lawmakers on every level. Our collective voice is loud and proud, and nowhere is it louder than when we show up at the ballot box. Everyone here knows that when we all work together across different levels of government, change is possible. And part of that change is holding truth to power during elections. Whether that's getting candidates elected who will keep their promises and actually represent the will of the people, or running for office ourselves.
Like many of my fellow survivors here, I first got involved in the gun safety movement because I wanted to honor my siblings and fight for a safer future for my family and my community. But then I decided to go further. I wanted to write the gun safety laws I'd been fighting for. I wanted to get them across the finish line. That's why I decided to run for office in one of the hardest states for gun common sense in the country, Oklahoma. You know, this was a tough race. And the state of play in Oklahoma is one that often feels like one step forward and two steps back. But the point here is I kept going forward. Though I was unsuccessful, I keep moving forward. We all keep moving forward. No matter what our members of Congress, our state representatives, or our local elected officials say, because victories in the gun safety movement happen every single day in every single town across every level, and we all deserve better. Because like Angela said, we can't stop. Won't stop.
In Joshua's election and in elections across the country, Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action volunteers showed up and showed out to support gun sense candidates up and down the ballot. This past cycle, volunteers made over 6 million voter contacts through phone calls, text messages, door knocks, and more. Where are my Arizona moms? In Arizona, Moms Demand Action volunteers participated in dozens of activations to support gun sense candidates, including events for the now Arizona Governor, Katie Hobbs. With the support of volunteers and survivors like me, Arizona voters rejected a gun-lobbied-back candidate to elect Governor Hobbs, who has been a gun sense champion this year, vetoing legislation that would protect the gun industry, allow guns on school grounds, and require students to receive gun-lobbied-back firearm safety training. 10 years ago, this couldn't have happened in Arizona, but over the last 10 years, we fought for the change we wanted to see, and now we see the change we voted for.
That's right.
Over the past decade, our movement has become bigger, stronger, and tougher than anything the gun lobby tries to throw at us, and we're continuing to build our local power at every level.
On that note, while he could not be here with us today, there's someone very special who wanted to say hello, to welcome you to Chicago, and to thank you for 10 years of extraordinary work.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chicago. This is the first in-person Gun Sense University since before COVID, and I'm glad you're all getting together to mark 10 years of organizing and set a course for the decade ahead. I've always believed that change only happens when ordinary people get involved, get engaged, and come together to demand it. And that's exactly what you're doing. Right now, as you know, guns are the #1 killer of children and teens, as well as young adults in America. #1. We have levels of gun violence that are unparalleled in any other economically advanced society. This isn't a left or right issue. It is a life or death issue. That's why the work you're doing to organize, speak out, and create change at every level of government is so important, and it's paying off. Last year, thanks to your work, Congress passed the first major gun safety legislation in nearly 30 years. And you elected gun sense champions up and down the ballot, including more than 140 of your own volunteers in the last year alone. These folks have gone from advocating for good policy to actually writing it. You've also convinced lawmakers across the country to pass hundreds of common sense gun safety laws at the state level, including new ones in Illinois, Washington, Minnesota, and Maryland this year. And I know you're not done yet. Look, there's no question that this work is hard, and there will always be powerful forces standing in the way of change. But you're showing the world that when enough good people get together and make their voices heard, progress is possible. Better is possible. That gives us hope, and hope is still a powerful thing. So thank you for everything you're doing and everything you will do to save lives. Let's keep it up.
That was incredible. Thank you, President Obama. As President Obama said, not only are we finally all back together in person, but we're also celebrating 10 years of life-saving work. Thanks to all of you and the folks who came before you, we have made a significant amount of progress over the last decade. Next, we're excited to bring to the stage 3 members of our community to share their experiences and perspectives on the work, the evolution of our movement, and their thoughts on the road ahead. Today, our panel will be moderated by Monisha Henley, Everytown Survivor Senior Vice President of Government Affairs. Monisha oversees Everytown's federal, state, and local government affairs team. Monisha is originally from Wilmington, Delaware, where her mom is a proud member of the Delaware chapter of